Ready? Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with roll call. District 1. 3.
Present.
Brian Mon. All properly posted on December 27th. And one more time, you get to do prayer and pledge.
Yes, Larry Stein has been gracious enough to offer the prayer today.
Good afternoon. Happy New Year. Dear Father, thank you for the past year and the hope we have for the coming year. Our county family has seen lots of changes and challenges this year, and we do every year. We ask your blessings as we continue the important work of the county. We ask you to keep our 1,600 employees safe as they complete their tasks inside and outside of the courthouse and the county buildings and in all of the 720 square miles that make up our county. We pray for our elected leaders at the national, state, county, and city level. We pray for our first responders who are always there. We pray for our professional employees who serve the public every day. We ask you protect them always. Thank you for our blessings. We thank you in the name of our Lord and Savior for a happy new year. And the people say, Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Larry. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of December 20, 26th, and 27th?
Motion. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there any change to the blanket? There is. Okay. Is there a motion to receive this? Is there a second? I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Is there any other discussion about it? Then all in favor of the blanket, say aye. Or we've got to, I don't know. We need to do a motion again. Sorry.
As amended. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We have, make sure that none of these pertain to, we have some citizen comments about it. So Jessica, if you just want to explain the 3 items real quick, and then we can go to public comment.
Okay. Number 3 is a discussion in regards to the Friends of Oklahoma History Center Wiley Post Memorial. It's a memorandum of $100,000. This was approved previously, but it was under the wrong name. And it was a D3.
Okay, and then item 4 is for Live Free, and item 5 is for the Uncommon Ground.
Correct. Live Free was under a different name, and Uncommon Ground as well. And so these are just revised MOUs.
Things that were already approved, nothing new, just corrections on the titles of the entities. Okay, that having been said, Sean Cummings.
Well, hello again. Thank you for being the lone elected official here. Okay, I guess so an attorney general's opinion is basically the law, right? Kind of a decision. So he's saying that you get to build a jail, but I don't see anything in there about the mental health facility. So I know the jail's in, and that's a decision they get to make. But the other part that I see that's actually pretty big is he says, and the sheriff has charge of the county jail of his county. So did he take over as soon as this was written, or does he take over next? Do we need to congratulate Tommy Johnson, have a party for him, or what do we need to do here? Because if this is an official opinion, Tommy Johnson is in charge of the jail. Did you read it the same way I read it? I'm going to take that as a yes that you did. Okay, so the question is, let's say you get your mental health facility going. You still don't have any funds to operate it. And then the jail hasn't been built yet. So you only have permission for the jail. So the day the mental health facility is done and the jail is not done, you're in violation of this letter, which is the letter of the law, right? It's the AG's opinion. Is that accurate? So I'm surprised Tommy's not here. I saw a bunch of his people here, so I just assumed they were going to congratulate him on taking over. Is there something I need to know about that part of this? Has the jail trust been disbanded as was recommended by the feds? Has that happened? Okay, I guess we're not even going to get an eye nod here. Once again, it looks like he also said that you're building a $260 million jail because that's what the voters approved by 60%. Did I misread that? Because that means you don't get to build a $600 million jail. That means you're approved for 260. And do we have operational funds? I asked you last time I was here if you had operational funds set aside for that. Do you have those? So this is starting out like the original jail did. And we've seen how that worked out. This is going to be interesting to watch, but I do want to know when Tommy Johnson's taken over because I think the people of Del City would be maybe a little easier on this thing if they knew the sheriff was running it. Deal?
Councilman Scott Tatum.
Good morning, gentlemen. I'm looking at the three of you. I'm not sure that we have a quorum here. I see one elected official, but two unelected officials, but I'll let somebody higher up the day to celebrate. This is actually a day to mourn if you're from Del City, and I'm from Del City. One thing I do want to point out to you, according to the Attorney General, he said, and I quote, Oklahoma County is not a superior sovereign to Oklahoma City. That's something that I've been saying for the last year, and I hope that sinks in. He does say that you are immune, but I don't see how you can be immune without being sovereign. Okay, that should be up to a court to decide. Regardless, the Attorney General quoted case law, Rutgers State University versus Peluso, which is the foundation of what you're trying to do today. And it says, Rutgers says that accordingly, determining whether the county has immunity from Oklahoma City's zoning regulation depends on the balancing of the following factors. And one of those is the impact upon legitimate local interests. Legitimate local interests aren't just Oklahoma City's interests, they're Del City's interests. And I'm not sure that this board has considered the local interests of Del City. None of you have come to talk to me. I don't remember any town halls in Del City where any of you were present to talk to the citizens of Del City. You said that you spoke with our mayor. That's in dispute. I'm not sure about that. I wasn't invited to that meeting.
I don't control who your city manager, who your town invites. The mayor was invited. I met with.
Okay, I'm not gonna dispute
Yeah,
that.
we
I'm
can
not
go
gonna argue
over
with
this
you.
all again.
This is my time. I'm speaking, sir. Thank
No,
you
no,
very
this
much.
is our meeting. Sir.
Anyway, the Oklahoma Supreme
This is our
Court
meeting.
also endorsed Rutgers' assertion that such immunity from municipal zoning regulations is not limitless. You have to consider Del City's legitimate interests in this, and you're not. Okay, I'm just saying that right now. When exercising such immunity, a political subdivision, you, cannot arbitrarily override all important legitimate local interests. You cannot run roughshod over a municipality, which is exactly what you're doing. It goes on to say, the Attorney General goes on to say, this does not, however, give Oklahoma County carte blanche discretion to run roughshod in disregard of Oklahoma City's valid and pressing concerns about the proposed jail site. You're doing exactly that today. Instead, Oklahoma County ought to consult with Oklahoma City, listen and study local objections, problems, and find suggestions in order to minimize the conflict. And I would also add that you need to come to Del City because those are legitimate local concerns. The Attorney General has told you you need to do that. Do it. You can imagine I'm upset about this. I live in Del City, and this is going to impact Del City disproportionately. You guys were elected to help the cities within the county. You are not helping Del City in the least by doing this. I know you think you are, and Commissioner Davison has said previously that having a county jail is going to be a boon for Del City. Absolute garbage. There's no way a county jail is going to be a boon for Del City. There are many reasons why that jail should not be built in Del City. This has been a debacle from day one. You can go back and tell Commissioner Davidson there are many reasons, and I can give him 2,900 reasons why that should not be built there. If the news has any questions about what I'm referring to, I'll be glad to tell them. You all know what I'm talking about. Don't build that thing there. Do not vote on this today. Whatever you do, let's do the right thing. Thank you.
Councilman Michael Dean.
Good afternoon, Michael Dean, the councilman for Del City. And in our council, we have to have 3 of our 5 councilmen to have a meeting, and otherwise it gets canceled. So I'm not sure how with 1 elected official, you guys are having a meeting. So that should be considered by hopefully Mr. Drummond, seeing how our county lawyer is not looking into these things and these
Our
questions.
county attorney is right here for
So-
both of you council members, and she can attest this is a legal meeting.
So
Counties are set up differently than cities. We have chief deputies, and they have legal rights to sit in.
okay, thank you. So I'm up here to go and discuss items 4, 5, 4, 5, and 6, and I put in separate ones for that. Item number 4 is going to be the Live Free Oklahoma City, I believe. And the question with that one is that's a community action type of help. And on that question is you're spending ARPA funds. And one of the things that just really bothers taxpayers is at the end of a big government social project is not to have anything to show for it. So hopefully I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying that you want to see something physical. And so the question I've got, go out and hopefully reduce violence, is we've got programs out there that's established, such as the Boys and Girls Club in Oklahoma City and Del City and so forth, Salvation Army. And so my question is did you look into the different projects and go and offer this money out to Salvation Army, the Boys and Girls Clubs, other clubs to go and help reduce violence? I've discussed this with a couple of high school students that's about whether or not they've seen this program, and they hadn't seen the Live Free Oklahoma City. So again, spending money wisely is our duty as elected officials. Item number 5, I believe, is sculptures for Edmond. Is item 5? The question I've got is it's going to go and help a really nice park and something brand new that Edmond decided to go and put in. We are an established city over in Del City, and we need help. We don't have where everybody else has left because of your last county project, which was to send Camelot Courts over to Del City, right at 1900 grand. That ended up starting the decay of our city and the decline of Southeast Oklahoma City. So my question again about ARPA dollars is what is going to Southeast Oklahoma City? It appears that the only ARPA dollars that you guys have considered to send to Southeast Oklahoma City is the mental health facility and the jail. We would appreciate other dollars besides that. We have infrastructure, different things that you guys could have helped us on and have neglected them. So sculptures for a park and let's just say a new basketball court for inner city kids or for Del City kids, Southeast Oklahoma City kids, that would have been appreciated. Things to help encourage kids, encourage young adults on not doing violence, that would be appreciated. But spending money on sculptures for a wealthy Edmond neighborhood, that does not seem appropriate. And then finally, just to finish off the jail, which is one that we don't have an elected official. We have Mr. Blau over there, which does not seem to be voicing any questions. We, of course, find that sending all of your jail, your mental health, and basically all the inmates and all the basically people who's been arrested, and then resending them over there, it is still going to be a very difficult time on Dale City. Right next door, which again needs ARPA money, is we have 6 living facilities for mentally challenged people. There's over 200 residents, and they came up and spoke to you before. Some of that ARPA money would have been great to spend on them. Let's go and relocate them. Their facilities were built probably back in the 60s, if not 50s to 60s. That would be a great thing to do. Again, to go and help the most vulnerable of our citizens instead of placing a mental health facility in jail next to them. And then finally, I talked to you about the unplugged well, and just to make sure that they got the message back to you. The environmental report does not address what I was discussing, that you do still have a dangerous well on the property. Thank you. Bye.
Christopher Johnston.
Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, wow. I want to say about this. Mr. Sean Cummings said it best. I mean, if we're going to take an opinion, which a legal opinion is legit, like it's pretty important, then we need to dissolve the jail trust immediately. I mean, it clearly says, and you guys are going according to what the legal opinion is saying. And you're saying, well, he's saying that, he's saying that. Rightfully so. He's the top cop in the state. I get it. Well, then the sheriff needs to assume complete control of the county jail, which brings it back to the taxpayers, and we remove that ridiculous private board. I would ask my representative, Mr. Blau, to pay attention to people's public comment, not only when they criticize you.
Mr. Johnson, I'm taking notes of your
Okay.
comments, so
Okay.
I am paying attention.
Okay. I just
So
see
I
you look on your phone
I would
a lot.
hope that you would want me to take notes, to be aware of what you're
Mhm.
saying, so that I can look into the things that you're stating.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I am taking notes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just voicing a good concern people in the public have mentioned. Okay. But thank you.
Yeah. Here,
So,
Mr. Johnson.
dude, like I said, you're more into protecting yourself than other things. But I want to move on from that. So, I want to say that you guys have actually done some pretty good stuff. You've actually galvanized 3 separate cities that weren't exactly seeing eye to eye originally on the jail trust: Oklahoma City, Dell City, Midwest City, as well as the victims' families and survivors. They've all been on our side. Handful of folks, 2 federal investigations. You've mentioned various community meetings where, that absolute nonsense that CJAC did at a couple of churches doesn't really count. You've gotten busted up legal advice from day one, hence all of the people that are looking into you. So, I mean, I would really caution any legal advice that you get from your folks who talk to you. And again, I do appreciate one thing that Mr. Brian Mon said. He finally admitted he was actually a public servant that finally admitted that this mental health facility was never a diversion program. He mentioned that. You have to become arrested. Diversion is where you actually stop people from getting arrested. That's true diversion. So I also want to know, since we're going to really try for this mental health facility, are you guys actually going to answer my record request from the 21st of August? Timely manner. Come on. Who's going to have control of the records and things like that? So, yeah, my number one question is are you guys going to make a public announcement that says that the Oklahoma County Criminal Justice Authority is no longer, because you're going by the opinion as the word, as the gospel? Are you going to adhere to that? Or are you going to do what you normally do, which is opinion a la carte, where you choose what fits your narrative and what your donors and billionaires say? Thank you.
Mark
The rest
Paul.
I leave for the final comment.
I'm tired of this. I think the entire county is tired of this. I'm going to do a real quick little history lesson so we don't forget how this came about. So originally, CJAC was created, Criminal Justice Advisory Council. They were created for the sole intent of pushing through a new jail. We have the emails that show that. That's what the discussions were. They, in turn, created the jail trust. Now, when they created the jail trust, there should have been a vote of the citizens of Oklahoma County. There was not. Instead, you manipulated the process, lied to your constituents, and defied the will of the people. And now we're paying the price. Now, when you created your jail trust, and then CJAC recommended that you bring in experts to tell you whether they should build a jail, the firm that was hired was a jail building firm and an architect that designs jails. So what do you think their conclusion was? That we need a bigger jail because they profit from it. So you manipulated the process. You lied to your constituents. And you defied the will of the people, and now we're paying the price. Then you pushed through a bond, of course, after you named people to that jail trust who were billionaires who created this entire mess, and it was chaired by the sister-in-law of the person who chaired CJAC, both of whom are gaylords, billionaires in Oklahoma City. So this entire thing has been manipulated from day one. You then push through a jail bond saying you could build a jail for $260 million. $260 million. We told you that was not enough. The People's Council for Justice Reform consistently said it was going to cost you closer to $1 billion by the time interest is added in. But you ignored us, and you did that because you knew that you could manipulate the electoral process by saying, oh, this equals the amount of bonds that are being retired. It had nothing to do with what it takes to build a jail, and you knew it. You knew it. It's what you could sell us. So you lied to us. You manipulated the process, defied the will of the people again, and we're paying the price. Now, finally, against all of your constituents' wishes, you push through this location on Grand. People have profited from this all down the line. Miles Davidson, I feel like if you dig very deep, you're going to find that he profited from this. Because his best buddy from grade school owned the property, made a windfall of multi-million dollars because we bought that land. Again, you lied to us. You manipulated the process. You ignored the will of your constituents, and we're paying the price. Now, I guess the good news is in this opinion letter, it says that you're going to build a jail for $260 million. We will hold you to that. This letter will come back to bite you. Now, but let's be honest about this. Either this letter is law, which it's not. A court can overrule this. I would hope that Oklahoma City or one of the other municipalities challenge you legally because you have done whatever you can to manipulate things. Now, what happens next? Now, you have to go find a private equity firm and finance the rest of this jail to the tune of $500 million. Now, one of the three firms that did that, oh, and by the way, the letter was written, the opinion letter was written at the behest of John Eccles, who owns Turnkey, who has profited from that jail for years, who I'm sure has made a deal so that they're going to get their contract back when that new jail opens. Because we know this all happens behind the scenes. We know even the nonprofits you give money to happens behind the scenes. Kathy Cummings, as the mayor of the village, was here several years ago with a list of things that they needed that ARPA money could be spent on. I would like to know the process by which these nonprofits were chosen. She was the first person out of the gate. And in her loving memory, I would like to know why their needs were ignored, why the needs of other municipalities were ignored, while your pet projects, and I believe half of those were bribes and kickbacks for people just to get along and act like they love everything you're doing so they can get their piece of the pie. That's what this is. This is a money scheme. So one of the three companies that you have selected that has bid on this process to be your private equity firm is a firm called Morgan Stanley. Everybody here has probably heard of it. As someone who's covered Wall Street and Wall Street fraud for 20 years, I'll tell you who Morgan Stanley is. They, over the last 20 years, have paid almost $11 billion in fines for fraud. They paid over $5 billion for toxic securities abuses. They paid almost $5 billion, $4.7 billion for investor protection violation. They paid $400 million for price fixing and anti-competitive practices, and another $200 billion for mortgage fraud. This is who you're getting in bed with. And the other two companies also have a lengthy list of fines, but not quite as illustrious as Morgan Stanley. Get in bed with that company and they will screw us again, just like you've been screwing us for the last several years. Honestly, the legal manipulations, the ignoring the will of your constituents, making us pay the price, taking our last dollar bills, and here you go, here's mine, you can have it, might as well, you're going to milk us all out of it. The moral outrage is even worse. For all of the horrible criminal things that you've done, the moral outrage is even worse, because our mantra has been from day one, help people on the front end. Quit criminalizing mental health. Quit criminalizing drug and alcohol addiction. Don't throw people in jail and use it for a clearinghouse for nonprofits and people who get a piece of the pie in this money scheme of a jail industrial complex, which that's what it is. Quit criminalizing people for being homeless. They bulldozed, and I mean bulldoze, another homeless encampment just a couple of days ago. They gave people an hour to collect their belongings and leave. They do these pretty little things where they say, oh, it's key to home. We find you a place to live. I saw the Diversion Hub flyer downstairs that said, housing, we get you housing. Well, we've been trying to push several people through to get housing, and their offer was, we can put you in a shelter. So don't tell me that you're getting housing for thousands of people as you kick them out of the only place they have to maybe have any type of community, and then threaten to arrest one of them because he went back and tried to save the kittens that he had been taking care of on this piece of land before the bulldozers got there. This is what we're dealing with. Have you no morals? Have you no humanity? Have you no compassion for the people? You are so blinded and single-minded in your rush to judgment and your rush to push this through. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. We don't care what anybody thinks. And so here we are, the last day of the year, New Year's Eve, a matter of what? What are we now? 8 hours away from the deadline to allocate that money? And you guys have just recklessly done this all along. And I am telling you, you will pay the price. The truth has come out and it will continue to come out. And in the end, the will of the people will overrule all of your corruption, all of your lack of heart, all of your lack of compassion. And there will be a day of reckoning and we may see another county commissioner scandal like we saw decades ago.
Councilwoman Sarah Bana.
I think what would have been ethical is to allow the court procedure to play itself out. I think what gives the appearance of abusive political conduct is utilizing John Eccles, who we all know has a conflict of interest because he is a part owner of Turnkey Medical, which until a few months ago had a monopoly on not just the contract with our county jail, but as well as a mass majority of the jails in this state, to submit a question to the Attorney General's office, who really shouldn't have overstepped his arena by providing an opinion on a pending litigation, to create the political pressure that you needed to push your deal through. You could have given the city of Oklahoma City, the city of Del City, the city of Midwest City, and the Mid-Del School Board a fair opportunity in a court of law, which is a valid institution within our democracy. But she couldn't do that. And as Mark says, this is a repeated pattern of behavior from this county government. And unfortunately, our district attorney, who serves as your legal counsel, unlike our previous district attorney, is unwilling to stop the misconduct. So much so that Commissioner Miles Davidson deceitfully, dishonestly, and adamantly paraded himself around the public and before news media cameras, repeating a fallacy that the county had superior sovereignty over a municipality over and over and over again. And the district attorney of this county was willing to argue that in a court of law at cost to you and I, the taxpayers. And now we know that the attorney general, the top attorney in the land, has declared that there is no superior sovereignty by a county. So I think the taxpayers deserve an apology for the deceitful and dishonest rhetoric by Commissioner Miles Davidson. I want to ask you all, did you guys seek the Attorney General's insight on how he feels about the fact that the jail trust, which was a state multi-county grand jury, was convened, right? As a result of language put in there by Mr. David Prater, official corruption that has led to preventable death, violence, and lack of safety in the jail, right? There was a county grand jury that was then handed to a state multi-county grand jury that recommended the dissolution of the jail trust. Did we ask what the Attorney General feels about your failure to comply with the state multi-county grand jury's recommendation? Did this body seek the Attorney General's opinion when they decided to take over operations management and financial oversight of a county jail that was already in crisis and hand it over to non-qualified officials? No, we failed to do that. But it served your end goal to seek his opinion in this case. Unfortunately, I believe there are a lot of fallacies in the AG opinion, because the facts provided to him by those who seek the opinion are partially not comprehensive and partially erroneous. It leaves out the fact that there are many locations within walking distance of the new jail site that are going to experience a heightened security risk. But you all left that out. And I believe, it appears to me, that that was intentional. You all also decided to not mention that the death rate and the increased mortality rate that we're seeing is not caused by the building. As a matter of fact, every health department report, the NIC report, has all dictated that the death rate is the failure to oversight and official neglect, the failure to perform timely site checks, the fraudulent medical services you all are providing, the understaffing, and so on and so forth. And that the death rate has increased because of you all's decision to take over the jail from the sheriff's office, who was not having that high of a mortality rate. Y'all failed to tell him that. Y'all also failed to tell him that the last time the jail passed a health department inspection was when the sheriff was there prior to the transition of power, which you all forced upon this county. And you have failed to tell the Attorney General, and you have also are failing to tell the taxpayers of this county how you plan on funding this $800 million to $1 billion jail. Do we have an idea of how we're going to fund it? Are we going to be honest with the taxpayers that you may potentially have to increase property taxes and or add a county sales tax? Or are we going to tell them that after you begin your construction plan where there is no point of return? These are my concerns. Finally, I just want to mention that this county has problems balancing its budget annually, year after year. We are in debt, and you guys are continuing runaway spending that is going to put the taxpayers of this county in debt for approximately the next 60 years. And as a Democrat, I should not be standing before two Republicans and asking for financial reasonable management.
School Board Member Gina Standridge.
I'm going to take this, Mark, because Middale needs it. Good afternoon. I'd just like to say I have watched this whole process since it started a year and a half ago, over a year and a half ago. If you guys would have told me the end result was what it is, I never would have believed it. I taught about this process in school, in my government classes. What I taught and what I have learned from being in the middle of it, two totally different things. It's very interesting to watch how things play out and the players that are involved. I've seen abuse of power. I've seen elected officials go against the will of the people time and time again. I've seen people with money get their way while destroying others. A few things I've learned along the way, it's a never-ending cycle. Almost everyone involved in pushing this jail through has ties to make money. Every time I turn around and research things, I find out other things. It's so interesting as to Eccles asking for the AG's opinion. I never knew any of that. I never knew that he owned Turnkey. Well, that's a conflict of interest here. We have a lot of conflicts of interest with people. I've watched as one commissioner appoints a person, and this person goes out and makes deals behind closed doors. That is not rumored, it is fact. I do have text messages between the two that prove it. Shocking. I have watched as donors to your campaigns seem to be making all of this money off of the way, at least how one of you has voted, and leaving me and my communities to pay for it with tax dollars we don't have. I've seen the text messages plot out what is happening today between two people. Seen the text messages. They were dated back in November. So It's happened. They plotted it out. It happened. I've also seen text messages where the site was discussed, 1901 Grand, and it was said that area only has 17 voters. We'll put it there. That area is silent. So those 17 voters do not matter. The 15 or 1600 that vote regularly from Middale, they don't matter either. You don't need those. You don't represent that area, so you don't care. So, and I know you're new to all of this, but I've been here a while watching it all go on. I've seen the Freedom of Information Act overlooked and dismissed by our own DA. I've had a message with her asking her to help me get what I've asked for totally and not just bits and pieces of it. But you can only imagine what I've got if I got the whole thing, how that would have turned out. I've seen complaints by 2 different communities sent in to the AG's office, left untouched and unnoticed. I've seen elected officials who are supposed to serve the public, the people, and answer to the people. It's not happening. My whole issue all along, it's too close to schools, neighborhoods, daycares, parks, churches, special needs living centers. I have sat and watched you take other locations off of that list for having one school. We've got 5 within a mile. I guess because there's not enough voters in our area and we're silent, it's okay to do that to Middale. Thank you for proving that Middale and Crooked Oak communities are last, least, and lost. You know, we have 4 bus stops on Bryant within 400 to 500 feet. I don't want to hear. I want to hear what you're going to do for my school kids who are at risk because of your choices. What are you going to do? I don't want to hear there are schools by the current jail, because the one thing that makes this different is there's a police station right across the street every day there. Are you going to put something in there besides a bus stop? Come on. Those people are not getting on the bus when they leave. And you better believe the first time something happens to one of our kids, I will be the first here to hold you accountable for what has happened. Or an elderly person that lives 500 feet away. Or someone in that assisted living center for special needs that is hurt. You know, I heard something that really bothered me by some of your interviews. I think it was you, Brian. You got a Christmas miracle. Miracles should be saved for our kids, not public officials and government entities that are not following the will of the people. You are building that jail on the backs of our children, and they will be the ones who bear the burden to pay for it.
Councilwoman Claudia Brown.
Good afternoon, and happy early new year. Very happy to be here, and I actually look forward to being here a lot more. I really thought that we were going to be done. Just reflecting on what was said, Del City was taken off of the list several times, and we have continued to fight. We will continue to fight. And I'm up here to remind you that you guys do not have the funding for this particular new jail that you would like to build at 1901 East Grand. You haven't been very you haven't been very honest about how you do plan on paying for that. I believe that the community does need to know that there is very much going to be a tax, an increase, a raise of their fund of their money to go to this jail that a lot of people do not want at this location. I want to just be here to remind you that because the money is not there, you guys are now looking a bit like bullies. You guys are continuing to bully Dell City and bully the smaller towns, and pressing and twisting the arms of the only big brother that we had, which was Oklahoma City. You know, they did the best by trying to fight for us, but what did you do? You twisted the arms. And again, I think this is all coming down to the downtown mafia that owns almost every single piece of land around that current jail site. And, you know, we were off the list and purposely put back on that list. And now I want you guys to look at the community and let us know, how do you plan on paying for it? I have a feeling that it might be just like in the past, where you put some money into it and then you just let it go to trash. With the amount that you might have, again, like I've said before, it might just be cinder blocks and barbed wire, and you're going to let it there and you're going to leave it there to just rot because you will not have enough funds. And, you know, with those many beds, I'm sure your idea of how to make those funds is by selling those beds. Maybe that's why you want such a huge jail there. And maybe that's how you expect to get those payments to be made. And I'm afraid that, you know, hoeing out our beds at our jail is not the answer. And I just want to make sure that you know that there is a large amount of the community that has said no, and you are looking like bullies. And just please consider, as you go to your families into this holiday and into this new year. I wish I had an elected official, but I appreciate what you have done so far, Mr. Blau. But just remember that Dell City will continue to fight. Dell City will be here. Everyone that fights with us will be here, and we will continue to show our faces and let you guys know how disappointing this is to see how you're just messing with money that you don't have. Thank you.
Others to speak?
Scott Tatum from Dell City. I just wanted to add one last thing. I figured that all of you knew that Dell City would come here and represent today, and this is not the way we'd like to have this situation resolved. I just want you to know that what you're doing here, the foundation of this jail is going to be built on lies and deceit and corruption, and mistruths and mistrust and anxiety and fear from the citizens of Dell City. Okay, just keep that in mind. You're going to do what you're going to do. I understand that. There's nothing I can do to stop you except just hear our words. That's all I ask. Just hear our words. Take that to heart and vote accordingly today. It's just it's just very upsetting after having gone through all this for so long, and there's been so many different options that could have been taken, and yet here we are. This is really going to cause so many problems in Dale City. I don't even know. I really don't even know what to say. I mean, it's just insanity. One thing that I do hope you take to heart is the county commissioner scandal of the 90s. County commissioners seem to get away with what they want until they don't. Thank you.
Okay, again, there's no new ARPA funds here. These were previously approved. These were just corrections to those for the titles to be sure they were accurate. Is there a motion to approve 3 through 5?
Motion approved. Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Any commissioner comments before we recess into executive session? If not, is there a motion? I'll move to go into executive session. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, is there a motion to return to general, regular session?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Action on the remaining item.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we would proceed as discussed.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any other citizens to be heard now? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.